This is where we will be discussing some hot topics. Now, before we get started, we want to recognize our producer, Mr. Carl Booker, who has pulled all this together for us. And we also want to recognize you, our listeners, for hanging in here with us. Now, we want to continue our discussion related to the pro-Palestinian protests on the college campuses and its implications. And then we want to do another hot topic discussion about failing students, middle school students who did not pass the math or reading tests. So with that in mind, these college campuses protests, there are a lot of implications that we need to consider. First of all, we need to consider Wall Street's threat to them about future jobs. The big question, where are the HBCUs and why aren't we hearing anything from them? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with Chris. What are your thoughts about, especially HBCUs? Who wants to talk about it? You or Chris?
I don't believe that there's ever been a presence of the HBCUs in protest, at least that I can recall. I'm old enough to remember Kent State, Ohio State, UT, some of the other campuses in the early or late 60s, early 70s that were protesting the Vietnam Wars. I do not remember anything happening at the predominantly HBCUs at all. But I think Caleb is saying that there may be a presence in the HBCUs, but I'm more interested in knowing probably why there isn't anything at the HBCU level.
Yeah, no, that's my question too. And so I was thinking, the same reason why they tried to squash the campus administrators tried to squash the protests on campus during the 60s is because of donors. You know what I mean? White wealthy donors. You have the boards, the oversight boards and stuff like that, which are predominantly white. You have the like for instance in the Fairview, part of the Texas A&M system, and so you have that board of governors, right? Who call the shots? Who control the money? And so my thing is there's a money element to not getting engaged or having that kind of activity, or as far as the administrators go, but as far as the students go and taking the initiative on their own and getting involved in that, I'm curious as to why I haven't seen more activism on Black campuses, as far as this protest. I mean, our people, more than any other people, understand what apartheid looks like. We understand what systemic oppression looks like. We understand what state violence looks like. And so I would think that it would be our kids, our students, more than any other students that would be out there leading this charge.
Now, as we said in our own off-camera discussions, that Emory University is one of the universities where there's some student protests. And we've got Spelman, Morehouse, Clark. Some of those students may be migrating over to Emory to protest. That's a possibility.
Right.
Before we go any further, you may be hearing a lot of background noise. Sounds like a concert's going on. Well, there is a concert going on. There's a pop-out party right outside our doors, and they are having a good time out there. This is Fiesta Week in San Antonio, and everybody's partying. So if you hear any noise outside, you're thinking it's part of the studio. It's not part of the studio.
Right.
They're just on our doorsteps partying hard.
So, and we're sitting here enjoying the music. So some of the music is old school, and it's jumping. We can smell the barbecue coming through the door, and so they are really out there having a good time and partying.
So going back to the protests and the HBCUs, how are the HBCU students restrained from protesting on the campus?
Right. That's a good question. I mean, I'm wondering, is the campus administrator, but even on campuses where you have the campus administration who are adamantly against the protests and who are doing everything they can to quell these protests, you still have the students taking that kind of initiative and saying, hey, to heck with what you guys are saying. And so I'm wondering why Black students aren't taking that initiative. And I some people would say, you know what, this is not our fight. And so I understand that that element. I understand that argument. But at the same time, there's another argument to be made. Again, you know what I mean? That we understand state oppression. We understand state violence. We understand what apartheid looks like. We understand what it means to be oppressed. And so I would think that our kids would be out there taking the initiative and taking the lead on some of this. It's just, right is right, wrong is wrong. And growing up in a Black household, we understand that as soon as we can walk. We understand right is right, wrong is wrong.
And, our Black students got to understand something. Now, there's always a threat that the draft can be reinitiated. And where do you think they're going to go first? They're going to go to HBCUs and pull those students from there. So I think that, I can understand their thoughts about this is not our fight, but in a way it is our fight as well, because if this draft ever gets reinitiated, Black students are going to be drafted.
This is not the topic, but I do want to comment on that. I don't ever believe that the draft will be reinstituted, especially now, because number one, they don't want to see their kids being drafted and going to the war. So,
but they can always have bad feet. They'll go to
what?
They'll go to podiatrists to justify why they can't go to the draft.
Oh, okay.
Bad feet, bad toes, missing kidney.
I digress. Okay.
But at the same time, I think, there's a big demographic shift, whereas a lot of the Republican households kind of eschew education now, and so whereas you could get a college deferment, a lot of those white kids won't be getting college deferment because they don't. It seems like the right wing is shifted to where they are
college deferment or draft deferment.
They get so you can get a draft deferment for being in college, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But the thing is, though, a lot of Republicans don't believe in college education anymore. So it'll be their kids who are getting pulled. But but no, I just, again, it's just I'm wondering, where are the Black voices, the young Black voices in this? And so there are 35,000 deaths. You know what I mean? And again, I think on a previous show we discussed the simple fact of the matter is Israel's largest export is cut diamonds, and there's not a single diamond mine in Israel.
Right.
And so
where are they getting them from?
Africa. They're going to Africa.
We know where they get them from. You know what I mean? So you know what I mean. And so even if you feel like, hey, you know what, this is not, the Palestinian kids that are dying, you have to understand there's also kids in Congo that are working in those diamond mines that are dying, that are being exploited, women that are being exploited. And so there's a traceable line of death. So it is a we do need to our kids do need to be out there on expressing that same kind of discontent.
Yeah, you and I went to go see the movie Origin.
Right.
And throughout that entire movie, you saw how groups were eliminated. Now, our kids need to realize we're seeing an elimination of a group of people on the Gaza Strip. What? Excuse us.
Yeah.
So anyway, our kids have to realize that historically we have seen an elimination of people, and it's still continuing on. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a break and come right back.
Take a break, because he said.
You can't take a break?
No, because he's
at the door, but he.
Oh, wait a minute. Lord, have mercy.
It's Fiesta.
So let's move on to our next hot topic subject.
Yeah. So
Judson ISD. I'm going to let you have this one because you used to live in Judson ISD here in San Antonio.
Yeah. So, I think I might have told y'all this story before. My kids when we lived over there. Well, my kids were in middle school, and we got the heck away from Judson ISD. They actually called the police on my son for having a cell phone, and I was like, oh no, they didn't need nothing.
Oh, that must have been in the 1950s.
No, but I'm like, you guys are not going to criminalize my kid already at a young age for having a cell phone. So we got the heck out of that district. But no, that district was, we were always up at the school. Well, we Will's kind of parents anyway, so we're going to be at school anyway. But we were always at the school for just like what seemed to be ridiculous stuff. You know what I mean? Really petty infractions. But the topic that we want to address today is Judson passing kids from middle school kids who have failed math and reading. And so, oh my God, you talk about the politics of low expectations. And so passing these kids who have failed math and reading, what kind of outcome are those kids going to have? First and foremost, when those kids get to high school without reading and writing, you're setting them up for failure. Because that you're setting these kids up to become frustrated. They're going to get left further and further behind, and you're going to create an entire generation of dropout because of that frustration. And so instead of passing the kids, hold them and teach them. Judson ISD needs to do the damn job, and they need the people in that district, the taxpayers need to hold their feet to the fire, hold them responsible, and make them do their job and educate those kids instead of just passing them. You know what I mean? They don't give apparently it looks like they don't give a damn about the kids. We know the racial composition of that district.
It's a lot of black students.
It's a lot of black kids. Mm-hmm. And so they need to educate those kids, and the parents need to be at those school board meetings raising hell. And they need to make Judson do their job. This right here is ridiculous, and they're setting those black kids up for failure.
And it was really shocking. Judson has a black superintendent. Mm-hmm. And when I saw the article, I said, oh, no. And so as a former classroom teacher, if you have a student in your classroom who was passed on, mm-hmm. you know, when they did not have the skills, and you got to deal with the summer, what do they call it? There's a summer mind dump, okay? And they're coming to you already below grade level in reading and math, okay? Mm-hmm. Then they went to the summer dump, and then they're in your classroom. Then that means a teacher has to work double, triple, quadruple time trying to get that child up to par. And you got a principal breathing down that teacher's neck saying, well, what's the status? Why aren't you doing this? Why can't you do this? And so now, as my friend said, they're going to be passed on to the next grade level in middle school or high school with the lack of skills needed. And so, come on, school system, you can do better than this. I'm embarrassed that I even saw the article.
Well, I'm going to take the opposite view. There must be something that we are definitely missing. I cannot understand, too, like the both of you, why a school system would be passing somebody who's failing. Mm-hmm. The whole idea between passing means that you have exceeded and you are accepted. So you can't fail and then be passed. I mean, it's kind of a contradiction of words. So that being the case, I am, if anybody is watching this who is from Judson, please give a call to Avista Products or Black Video News to
help us understand.
To bring the superintendent, or I know Jose Macias, who is a trustee with that school district. We would like to have or hear your side of it as to what you're saying, because obviously there seems to be something that this New York Times bestseller or this doctor who is of the academic field that we are missing as to why somebody would fail and you would actually pass them. So, I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt and saying, you know something that we don't know, and there's a reason why you may have done this that we don't know about. And I'm giving you the opportunity to come on here to be able to tell us why.
Having been in a classroom, there were always recognitions. You recognize the student who got the highest grade in math, reading, perfect attendance, right? And then you have what we call the participation award. They just showed up. They just showed up. And you get an award for just showing up. Now, a lot of parents raise sand about, well, I don't want my child to be embarrassed. Okay, I can see that. But this right here, this passing from one grade level to the next, and you have flunked the test, that's just a huge participation award.
Now, I will also say that this is not the first time that this has gone on.
Yeah, it's gone on a lot.
It's gone on quite a bit. I've known several athletes who have been passed on from grade to grade who hasn't been able to read. One of the gentlemen who is a host of this show and the creator of this show, Fred Williams, wrote a book about a gentleman who became a doctor who he talks about through this book how he was passed on, but he played basketball and nobody really cared about him and continued to pass him on. But the guy, the end of the story is he became a professor. Sorry, I ruined the end of the book.
No. But with so many complaints against public education, seeing this just only strengthens the argument more and more. So how is the taxpayers' money being spent to address these kids not being able to read?
Well,
how will it be spent?
The one other thing which is real interesting is that in DEI and everything else that's going on, you don't find the taxpayers really complaining about this. We are the ones who are bringing this up. Nobody else is really saying anything about it. So is there a real concern in the community? Are folks really upset that Judson, especially, but all over America, that kids are being passed that really should need tutoring or some type of remedial level to be able to make it to learn? What is going on with us in America?
Well, we did a show a couple weeks back about the prison system. So what's really happening is we're seeing the pipeline, the prison system in action on a move like this. I'm sorry, Superintendent, I can't think of his name right now, but it is. We're moving these kids to a slow pipeline to the prison system. Because if they can't read at high school graduation, then what do you expect them to do? They got to survive somehow. So they're going to start doing some things, even before graduation. So I'm totally disappointed. I can't believe I even saw that. Can't believe I even saw that. So with that being said, we have said a lot today. We talked predominantly about immigration, not immigration, the student protests on these college campuses, and we ended up with the passing of students who have flunked reading and math. And we would like your comments. We want you to make sure that you put your comments on our link so that we can engage with you. And then finally, make sure you do a thumbs up and subscribe to Black Video Network to where you can get the notices of our shows. And with that being said, we want to say Viva Fiesta for San Antonio, adios. But most of all, we are Contemporary Black Voices, where we tell our stories our way. Oh, man.